What we're going to show you now is how to tie a Carolina rig. And so you need, Carolina rig is to use to fish on the bottom. You're going to be fishing like a floating lizard or a worm or even a jig, a Senko, a lot of different baits. It doesn't have to be any particular bait. A tube bait works good on Carolina rigs. It's just a presentation, so don't get hung up that it's a technique for a specific thing. It's a technique or a presentation for the fish when they're more feeding on the bottom. It's good for in the spring, pre-spawn stuff. A Carolina rig is also good to help you find structure on the bottom. So you're pulling your weight through and you're dragging it through mud and things like that. And then when you hit gravel or some rocks, that weight's going to tell you what the bottom composition is. So use a Carolina rig to help you locate fish, but also to help you locate type of structure. And then if you find rock and you find a fish on your rock, then you want to fish it. Then you can use different other presentations. A really good barrel swivel. You're going to get a bead right here to help protect your knot from your weight that you're going to be using. You'll generally want to use a ½ ounce or bigger on your weight because you want that bait to be staying down on the bottom. And then your hook, what you'll want to use is really just to match your bait. So if you are using a big bait, use a big hook. I generally like to use light wire hooks when I'm Carolina rigging because I want that bait to be swimming as free and as natural as possible. If you're using a small bait, go to a smaller hook. Okay, so your Carolina rig is really good. Let your weight slide up and down the line free. The bead helps protect that knot from the weight because that's a heavy weight banging on that knot, and then you won't be breaking off then your leader. Okay, and then for this Carolina rig, we're just going to use a giant 10-inch Yamamoto cut tail worm. We've got a 5/0 Gamakatsu EWG hook, light wire, red. Lots of different things here on the rigging. You can bring it just right up and right to the bend. But what I like to do, because I like that bait, this hook to be down, there's an egg sac here on the bait. And I like that hook to get as close to that, the hook point, to get as far back and as close to that as possible. So for this one, I'm actually going to thread this hook, this worm up on the hook quite a bit farther. So you can kind of see about how far up or how far back into the worm we're rigging this. And then because we don't have to worry about a weight pushing this bait back on the hook, we've got it, quite a bit up on here. This will help keep your bait straight too. And then we're going to be burying the hook into the bait or a Texas rig on it, or hook in. And so you'll push that all the way through, push the hook all the way through your bait, bring it back up, pull the bait forward just a little bit, and then just let it just slide right back up onto the hook. This will help keep that hook weedless, but it'll allow it to do that, and then when the fish bites on it, the hook gets exposed and you'll be able to get a good hook. Okay, Carolina rig fishing is it has its own little techniques you got to use to make sure you get good hook sets and be able to cast the bait. Now you've got your weight way up here on the line right here, and then your worm or lizard or whatever you're fishing with on a Carolina rig that's quite a bit a ways from that weight. So it takes a little bit of practice to make these casts. You don't just want to do like a snap cast where you just cast it. What this takes is it takes a nice lob cast is what we're gonna call it. So get your bait out here, get your reel set up so it'll make this cast, and you just want to bring it over your shoulder, loosen it up, and you just kind of want to make a nice easy lob cast. You don't want to put a lot of force into it, because if you put too much force into it, your bait twists around your line, you'll get knots in your line. The bait goes out, the weight doesn't go out as far as it can be, and it just causes a lot of grief. So nice lob casts, and after a few practice you'll be able to cast that lure really far with just a really nice lob cast. And if you need to cast it farther, go to a heavier weight too. And the rod you want to use for Carolina rigging is generally longer ones. So you're talking 7 foot. This is a 7 foot flipping stick. I like the flipping sticks in a medium heavy action because when you're bringing that bait back, you've got to move a lot of line. When you're fishing a Carolina rig, you don't want to set the hook and come straight up. What you got to do is you got to do a sweep set. So as you're dragging your bait, you're dragging it and you're dragging it, and you feel that bite. What you want to do is you want to reel down to it and point the rod right at the line of where you expect your bite is. And then you want to do a sweep set. So when you're sweeping it and you're moving it and you swing all the way around like this, like in a clock position, say you go from 3 o'clock all the way around to 9 o'clock. And you're going to just, with that longer rod and the sweep set, you're going to move a lot more line. And what that does is allow the line for you got to pick that weight up off the bottom and then bring it through to hook the fish. And so by doing a sweep set, you'll generally hook most of your fish.